Hello, I'm Tim Krul. Welcome to Norwich City Central.
Well, we're here again for the 16th time in a row. Hello, everybody. Lewis, Norwich City Central. I hope you're all doing well. Everton 2, Norwich 0. That's the 16th Premier League defeat for Norwich in a row. And Burnley next week is a critical game in Norwich's season. And you'd think in Daniel Farke's time at Norwich as well. Today, in isolation, it was a spirited defeat. Some nice spells, but in the context of the season, more schoolboy defending, a real lack of identity, and still a lot of the similar problems we've seen throughout the season persisting and being prevalent. So yeah, I wish we could all be a barrel of laughs. And I think sometimes you've got to try and find the positives in games. But yeah, it was a really difficult one, this, against an Everton team who, similar to Leicester a few weeks back, I think it was an Everton team who had injuries, who weren't particularly at the races, but still never really had to sweat too much to get the win. So that was really disappointing. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below in the comment section. You've seen a lot of noise about Daniel Farke and whether he's, the future of Daniel Farke in Norwich. But to be brutally honest, even if Norwich City were to go and lose another 10 Premier League games, I'm not entirely sure. I don't think it's guaranteed Daniel Farke would lose his job, just because of the nature of how the club is, and Daniel Farke seems secure in his job. And look, of course, I want to see Daniel Farke succeed, and I want to give him the maximum time possible. But after the Premier League season we saw 2 years ago, and we're in the 5th year of Daniel Farke's project. We're not in the same position we were 2 years ago, and more pressure has to be put on the management team at the top. But to be honest, to Farke today, the 2 goals were just moments of stupidity, one from Ozan Kabak and one from Kenny McLean, and there's not much you can do about that. But what you can do is the system, and you can really do a lot with the identity. And did this feel like a Farke ball performance? Did it feel like a Norwich City performance which was streetwise, which was effective? Not particularly. I mean, we played the back 3 today, the back 5, whatever way you want to look at it, for the first time. I think it's the first time we've started it under Daniel Farke in the Premier League. Kabak, Gibbs and Hanley, Williams and Aarons, the wing backs, Piers Lees-Manu, Kenny McLean and Norman as that midfield anchor, and Sargent and Pookie up top. And I thought we were more resolute defending. Everton had a lot of the ball, but particularly for that first half, I mean, there was no intent going forward. I think Norwich had a 0.01 expected goals from that first half, which says it all. There was no real game plan going forward. A lot of passing around the back, but there was no one. I think what Norwich desperately missed in that first half, and probably throughout the whole game, is quite simply a number 10, Todd Cantwell, Emi Buendia, whatever way you want to look at it, and a winger as well. It was just the ball came to our centre backs, and sometimes it went through our midfield, but there was no one really linking up the play between the defence and the attack, and it was hideous really going forward. But we were probably more defensively solid. I thought we was, defending balls better, but continuously throughout this season, we've seen Norwich City give away goals sloppily and easily, and that's what happened in this game. Alan runs forward, Kabak he doesn't really tackle him, but kind of hits him on the knee, and Alan falls over. It is a little bit of a soft penalty, but you can see why it was given. Not entirely convinced it would be given from a Norwich City perspective. We saw the Man United game where Ollie Watkins was standing in front of De Gea, and it was the exact same situation as the Kenny McLean Leicester goal. But I wasn't particularly convinced with the penalty, but you can see why it was given, and it was sloppy from Ozan Kabak. Townsend steps up and scores. And Norwich never really get going in that first half. I think Norman just fancies a 35-yard shot, but that was literally it. And to be honest, from this game, Norman was the clear head and shoulders man of the match. He kind of looks like a Ferrari in a team full of coursers at the moment. Plays with confidence, plays with intelligence. There's a real drive and passion there in everything that he does. And when Norwich lost Norman in the second half, God, we were all over the place. But 1-0 down, defensively slightly better. The 5 at the back system made us slightly more resilient, but we've still seen Norwich concede sloppy goals, and that's what happened in this game. No matter how resilient the system can be, you can't concede sloppy goals at this level, which we've seen for the last 16 Premier League games, and that continued in this game. But more worryingly, I still feel like there was a lack of real identity going forward. But in the second half, it was better from Norwich. Norwich had probably the largest and best spell they've had all season, which is we're setting the bar very low here, guys, aren't we? But Norwich had a lot of the ball and, caused Everton a couple of problems without really creating a big chance. And that's the fury. I think Norwich had some nice moments, but we never really created a big chance. Norman probably had the best chance for Norwich, 25 yards out. Yeah, again, he's someone who's not afraid to shoot and forces Pickford into a save. Kenny McLean puts a nice cross in and Ben Gibson kind of just loses his bearings from a free kick and really should be putting it on target. So that was disappointing. And that was it, really. Everton had a couple of chances on the counter-attack with Townsend, but Everton in this game, just obviously with a couple of injuries, it was an opportunity for Norwich, and you can't base omens and whatnot, but of course Norwich have a good record at Everton, and with injuries, it probably was a good opportunity to play Everton, and they never really got out of third gear, and look, we put them under a little bit of pressure, but this was an Everton team that were here for the taking, and just really, really disappointed, wasn't it? Obviously, the goal came in the 75th minute, and Norwich, as I said, were putting in some crosses, causing a little bit of danger. There wasn't too much identity to our play. There wasn't like a nice number 10 linking up the play. There wasn't a nice winger beating his man. It just came from lofty balls in the box and trying to get down the lines, really. But yeah, the biggest moment and the saddest moment from a Norwich City perspective was losing Norman, who was excellent at picking up play, really gave us a drive going forward. We lose him, and that told for the second goal, where Kenny McLean is completely dispossessed, and it was really, really poor from Kenny McLean. Whether he's good enough to be a Premier League starter remains to be seen. I think he was very underrated in the Championship and someone who maybe deserves an opportunity, but really showed really, really poor. And a few moments earlier when Pickford was injured, just skies a simple cross in the box, which Daniel Farke was furious with, and rightly so. But we lose the ball in the middle, no Norman to help, and suddenly, and obviously in that last 20 minutes we moved to a back four as well, so Farke was trying to be proactive with the subs. I'll give him that, because we haven't seen proactive subs from Daniel Farke too often, but tries to be proactive. But we lose Norman, we're hit on the counter-attack, the Courier scores 2-0. Everton have another chance from Ben Godfrey, of course, who's done good things for moving for Norwich. Krul makes a great save from Godfrey's cross, and that was it, really. It was a 2-0 defeat, and to sum it up, I think we looked more resolute defensively. You'd expect, you'd expect that from, we've played a 4-3-3, which hasn't worked this season, and we've essentially taken one of our creative players and put them in the centre-back position. We've essentially, taken off Rashica and put in Ben Gibson in his place. So you expect it to be more resolute defensively with a 5-back, 3-back, whatever way you want to look at it, through centre-backs. But fundamentally, going forward, there's just a lack of identity, really missing a number 10, really missing a pacing winger. I think you've got to try and find a way to get a couple of more creative players in the field, and I'd still argue that the 4-2-3-1, the formation that's worked so successfully for Farke in the past, is something that Norwich have still got to continue. But yeah, good in terms of an isolated, it was a spirited defeat in many ways, with some good moments. But in the context of what's happened this season and under Daniel Farke, that is 16 straight Premier League defeats, and I love Daniel Farke. I'm a big fan of his, but if there's not questions being asked of him, and if you're not being critical after losing 16 Premier League games in a row, then you're in the wrong job, and it's deeply worrying. But moving our attention to Burnley now, a massive game. Will Farke lose his job if we lose it? I don't know. I mean, he seems pretty set in his job, and of course has signed a 4-year contract, but it is a massive moment so early on in our season against, I say, a relegation rival. I'm not even sure Norwich have got any rivals, and they just look head and shoulders the worst team in the division at the moment. But thank you for watching. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below in the comment section. Full time at Goodison Park, Everton 2, Norwich City 0.